In one corner, we have the young buck, Matthew Tkachuk. In the other corner, we have the Canadian man of mystery, Jonathan Huberdeau. Welcome back, hockey fans. Welcome in if this is your first time to the channel. I'm Josh. This is the Hockey Flow. And today, it's Friday, July 29th, 2022. Welcome back. Thank you again. We got another exciting edition of Today in Hockey. I'm not sure, hopefully you got to catch out the video yesterday, but we did our first ever edition of Player Card Battles. We pit Sidney Crosby versus Alexander Ovechkin. Well, guess what? We're back again. We got another edition. Today we're looking at the big topic of the offseason, the big trade, Matthew Tkachuk or Jonathan Huberdeau. With help from JFresh Hockey and the Athletic Player Cards, we take a look at both players, and I tell you who I would take moving into next season. We'll get to that in just a moment on the channel, but first we got to get to Today in Hockey history, and then we got to get to headlines as well. We got a John Klingberg signing, that's right, but let's get right into it. If you do enjoy the content, take a moment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. We're going to keep bringing you videos every day, but like I said, I appreciate it. So let's get right into it. Today in Hockey history. On this date, July 29th in 2005, big day in New York Ranger history. The New York Rangers signed Henrik Lundqvist to his entry-level deal. This was actually 5 years after he was drafted by the Rangers. He was drafted in 2000. But all right, headlines. We talked about it a few days ago on the channel. We've been rumor roundup, right? We've been talking about John Klingberg a lot, and the domino finally fell. He signed a 1-year, $7 million deal with the Anaheim Ducks. That's right. The Ducks went ahead and made the splash, and kind of interesting to move on the face of it. Either he's going to slot in as that number 2 or number 1 right-sided defenseman. They have Jamie Drysdale already there, so interesting move, but I like it. Maybe give him an opportunity to establish some more value and take another swing at free agency next year. But all right, this is another neat one. Just to follow up on PULJUJARVI, I did touch base with our rumor roundup. Jim Parsons did mention PULJUJARVI today in regards to the Montreal Canadiens. Now that his number has been set, that cap number of $3 million, it sounds like the Canadiens could be sniffing around. Maybe they've got some bigger contracts or some established veterans that the Oilers may be interested. I'm not sure. But all right, let's get into it. Player card battles. All right, so yesterday was our first ever. We took a swing at it, and we're getting better each day, so I appreciate you guys hanging in with me. But essentially, we take a look at a couple of different player cards for each player. We look at their stats from last season as well. We give some pros, we give some cons of each, and then at the end, I tell you who I think I would take moving into the 2022-2023 season. If there are any pairings or any comparisons that you guys would like to see, let me know down in the comments, absolutely, because I love doing this, and I would love to give some demonstrations on ones you guys would like. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Matthew Tkachuk versus Jonathan Huberdeau. All right, Jonathan Huberdeau. And before we do get started, big shout out to the Athletic, Dom and Shayna, and also JFresh Hockey for these player cards that you're about to see. I love breaking these down, and we're going to talk through them. So first and foremost, Jonathan Huberdeau, the new Calgary Flame. All right, so here we go. Pros, cons, and we see the player cards along with the stats there. So just taking a look at the stats right away, we see 80 games played, 30 goals, 85 assists for 115 points. Shout out to hockeyreference.com for the stats. I tell you what, Jonathan Huberdeau had an excellent season. Looking at the player cards, we see a lot of blue up on that JFresh Hockey one. Blue is good, red is bad. We'll keep it simple. 87% WAR, that means he was in the 87th percentile. That just means there were only, 13% better than Jonathan Huberdeau last season, according to JFresh's model. And down there at the Athletic, we see a lot of yellow. Yellow is good, red and grayish is, I guess, not so good, right? But all right, let's get into it. Jonathan Huberdeau, he had an excellent season last year for the Panthers. Absolutely a big surprise that he was the big piece of this trade, right? One gentleman on YouTube got it right. Shout out to him. But what are the pros of Jonathan Huberdeau as a player moving into the 2022-23 season? All right, well, obviously he's an elite playmaker, right? Has been for a few years now. 85 assists last season absolutely speaks to it, and the metrics do as well. Absolutely, but 85 assists is a great number. I know assists don't necessarily tell the entire tale, but he shows up all over the stat sheet. But yeah, we also move into the elite finisher, right? 30 goals, he absolutely is. And we see there he's in the 90th percentile for finishing on JFresh's player card as well. And we look at the offense on Dom's card, 10.3. Absolutely, man. He's through the roof. So offensively, Jonathan Huberdeau is one of the best players in the NHL. His market value, we're going to talk about that too in just a moment. But that 13.6, that's up there with the best of the best. Now, he does have a little bit of a better track record than Matthew Tkachuk. If we're going to talk about it, last year was a big breakout season for Matthew Tkachuk. Don't get me wrong. Big breakout season for Jonathan Huberdeau in a lot of ways, too. If you look at his history, though, he did crack the 90-point mark once previously. And he is a little older, right? He's 29 years old, and that's going to come down here we see in the cons. But last but most certainly not least pro, that contract, if we're looking at it objectively, moving into this season, right? The $5.9 million for the one season. We're not worried about the extension. I know Calgary fans, you guys probably are, but for this exercise, I'm not worried about what he's going to cost down the line. For all we know, this might be his last season. But $5.9 million for that player, that is an extreme value. If you're putting a team together tomorrow and you tell me that I can get this this player at that price point, I'm gonna jump all over it. But all right, let's move into the cons. The pros are really good. Let's see what the cons are. Number one, age. Already talked about it. 29 years old. He is getting up there. By no means is that old, right? Goodness, I'm gonna call myself real old in a moment here. But by no means is 29 old. But it is getting up there, and especially when we're comparing him to Tkachuk, we're about to see he is only 24. So that is a big age difference. And again, this isn't about who won the trade or anything like that. We are simply looking at these players one-to-one. Who would I prefer next season? This doesn't mean either one is better. But all right, cons again, last but not least, does the offensive value make up for the lack of defensive value? So that is the one spot that really stands out to me on both of these player cards. We see that red for the EV defense, and we do see the red for the defense on Dom's player card as well. So does the offensive value, that 87% WAR on JFresh's card, does, obviously is including that 9% defensive value there, and that's tough. Obviously, that brings that down. So, does the offensive value, which is through the roof, outweigh the defensive lapses that may occur? That's a big question. It's a big question. Let's keep it in mind. But all right, that's Jonathan Huberdeau. Let's get into it. Matthew Tkachuk. Now, those that are familiar with the channel know I'm a big fan of Matthew Tkachuk. I'm a huge Oilers fan. Let's go Oilers, baby. Got my Oilers sign right here. Let's go Oilers. But I tell you what, that doesn't mean I can't like Matthew Tkachuk and his game, right? I may hate him while we're playing him, but man, he's something special. So here we go. Matthew Tkachuk. Right off the page, we see his WAR's at 91%, so just a tick higher. The other thing that we see is no red standing out, right? A lot of blue and a lot of yellow, and that ties into my first pro. But let's get into his stats first. 82 games played, 42 goals, 62 assists for 104 points, career high. Excellent season it was. It was a breakout season. Now, is that because he's playing on that top line with Johnny Gaudreau and Elias Lindholm? Might have something to do with it, but Matthew Tkachuk, if you're looking at the pros, he's been called it all offseason. He's a hockey unicorn. He's that rare combination of size, speed, skill, finishing. He does it all. He does everything really, really well, and it looks like he put it all together this last season. So he's solid offensively and defensively. We see it on the player cards. One thing, though, we don't see a lot of penalty kill with him, whereas Huberto, we did get some numbers of him on the penalty kill. Now, will that change in Florida? Maybe, right? Because now he's going to be filling that sort of role, but time will tell. Now, a big pro with Matthew Tkachuk, I love how physical he is. And when he's playing the Oilers, I hate it. It was so fun to watch him and Evander Kane go at it, and Evander Kane just kind of break him in some ways. But his physicality and the way that he's been able to stay durable through the physicality and his physical play is very impressive, and you do want that. Again, he's only 24, though. How is that going to age? It's another thing. Time will tell. But he also does have a positive trend. He did have a minor dip there we see in the chart, but he is moving upward, and that should just keep going up, right? The trend, I fully expect Matthew Tkachuk to continue building on this season he had last year. We see that market value, 16.1. My goodness, that is through the roof. That's through the roof. That's $3 million higher than Huberto's. But we got to get into the cons, right? Is he an elite finisher? I know he had 42 goals last year, but if you watch a lot of the highlights, and I'm on the West Coast, so I end up catching a lot of Flames games, a lot of his goals were very advantageous. Don't get me wrong, he has got skill for days, and the things that he does and the ways that he can manipulate his body and the stick and with the puck on it is just amazing. But is he an elite finisher? You know, you don't see him like sniping a ton of shots, things like that. That's just not really his game. So it's more of a preference thing. But the other question, can he do it without Johnny? We're going to find out. Barkov, he was singing his praises. He was saying top 3 player in the league. Do you agree? I'm not sure. But can he do it without Johnny? So we'll see, absolutely. I fully expect him to, right? Barkov is an excellent player, but, you know, Johnny Gaudreau has that speed. It's very dynamic, and I don't know. With Duclair out, probably going to be on long-term injured reserve, with that Achilles injury, you know, where's that speed going to come from? And again, Matthew Tkachuk's fast, but he's not Johnny Gaudreau fast. And our last but not least, that con, we're looking at that cap number, $9.5 million. We're not quite double Huberto there, but $9.5 million over the next 8 years. I told myself I wasn't going to really consider, you know, the long term, but in some ways, maybe this is a value, right? If Matthew Tkachuk really evolves and continues to grow on what he could be, maybe this is a value contract in a few years, but that's a big risk. If we're looking at just next season, that's a lot of money to commit to a player who hasn't proven to do it by himself yet. So we got to ask the question, right? All right, so those are the 2 candidates. We had Jonathan Huberdeau, Matthew Tkachuk. Who would I like in the 2022-2023 season? Who would I prefer? Matthew Tkachuk, that's right. I really think he's going to have an excellent season with the Florida Panthers. He's talking about already hating the Lightning and how he wants to beat them. And I tell you what, he's going to bring an edge to that team, and they needed it in the playoffs. They needed to reset, and Matthew Tkachuk was the right move for them. I really think he's going to have a great season for him. So that's going to do it for the video today, our player card battle. If you made it this far, we are doing a giveaway at the channel. We're celebrating 100 subscribers. So thank you so much again. I do appreciate you guys. We're going to give away a $100 gift card to NHL Shop. I'll have the special video out either Saturday or Sunday, just giving you the rules, explaining what to do and all the official YouTube stuff. Keep her compliant, but I got to get my ducks in a row first. But until tomorrow, cheers!